Here's my story. I had a very good childhood growing up. Loving father, loving mother. I was an only child till about 11 years old. I never really realized that my mom had become sick when I was around 8. Didn't know what she was going through. It was cancer at the time. And by 11, just after my sister had been born, I'd actually lost my mom. And it was the first time I was ever faced with an emotion that I really didn't know how to let go of. I was sitting with a pain in my throat that stuck there. I must have been for the next 3 to 4 years. And this pain is typically the pain that you would get before you would cry. And so I think the emotion at the time that I just couldn't rid myself of, or that I tried to push under, was to cry. And losing a mom at that age, where she was the pillar for me on a daily basis, was really difficult for me. A stepmom joined the family, and my dad moved on, and my sister, that was about 9 years younger than I was, we really didn't have much of a relationship. So I became the outcast of the family. I started to have to rely on myself at a very, very young age. So by the age of 14, I started to work, because work gave me a satisfaction. I could feel a sense of approval, something that I was always looking for from my father, that I always felt I was missing. And that later on in my life I got to know that he was also struggling to give me. He was also just the person that didn't really like to face emotions. So we never could speak about things like my mom passing. We never could speak about sadness. We could never speak about something that we've come in today's life to label as challenging or as emotional, because he would see that as a weak thing. So I even remember at the time is when I used to cry, he would actually threaten me that I needed to stop crying or I would get a beating. And over those years, I started to realize or to think that crying or feeling emotional was bad. And so I started to push those emotions under. And what happened later in my teenage life is the sadness didn't come up so much, but frustration and anger. And I was a really angry person then. And I would explode with anger. And again, this was wrong. It was wrong in society. It was wrong in school. It was wrong with the friends. And the more I pushed that emotion under, I started to feel something inside me bubble up, but I didn't know it at the time. I didn't even know what it was. Moving forward 10 years, I got married very early in my life. I really did always feel a need to have somebody female in my life. Maybe for the lack of my mother not being present, or the female person. And this female, whether it be my girlfriend or later on my wife, would be this anchor that I needed and that I wanted to replace the feelings of having somebody to support me like my mother. I'd married my wife and we were on a journey together. We were in love like I was many times before with many other women, and I think I always had this neediness, and the neediness was to have this female person in my life. And I can imagine that this neediness wasn't a great thing for the partners in my life. And later the neediness, after the affection died off, just became a fear of either losing the person or really just getting irritated with the person. So often my relationship just ended up very abruptly. Thankfully, I had a very strong and very loving wife. And over the years, we've really come to love each other deeply. And I found a soulmate in her. I found a reflection opportunity in her. I was 7 years into my career, and I really started to build something strong. I built a media enterprise, and I'd grown this from literally nothing to, we were about 40 people strong. And one moment to the next, whereas we were on the rise of fortune, of all the things that the world had told me was going to be great and that success meant. Big cars, big house, big job, lots of money, all the things that were seen as successful basically came to a standstill. And it came to a standstill by one single thing. And this was this feeling that I woke up with the next day. And I just didn't know what this feeling was. But this was going to be a feeling that accompanied me for the remainder of my life, and it helped grow me, that I've now come to see as my friend, that has helped shift my perception, helped let go of the displaced thinking, of the things that I thought were real. It helped me become myself again. It helped me heal old emotional wounds. At the time though, this feeling was exceptionally challenging. The more I wanted to get rid of it, the stronger it became. It became an excessive, heavy burden that I just didn't know how to rid myself of. And the more I tried, the more doctors I visited, the more physicians I visited, the more it got labeled as wrong and harmful. And the more I got afraid. And I came to know this emotion as anxiety or fear. And I really didn't even understand what that word meant then when I felt it. 8 years through living with anxiety, I came to a breaking point. I'd started to live with it, yet not know how to rid myself of it. And any one of you out there that's ever had anxiety or struggling or working with anxiety must most probably know how difficult it is to live with it, especially the stronger it becomes. I would relieve the feeling of anxiety with drinking. I would relieve it with working. And the more I worked, the more I drank, the worse it got, because obviously the next day it was just so much more profound. It was just so much more heavy. The more I tried to get rid of it, the more I read, the more I wanted to let go. And whatever I tried to do, I just couldn't. And I think the biggest learning that I had throughout my journey, and that only came really towards the end, and that's how quickly it then subsided, was that it wasn't something to get or let go of. There was actually something to embrace, to look at, to sit with, to look straight in the eye. And this was the beautiful, as I call it, turning point. And that just came after the breaking point. This will be part of the story that I tell and share with you. The breaking point was when I'd reached an all-time low, drinking every day of my life, having to drink at night, literally 3 to 4 to 5 glasses of whiskey or brandy or whatever it was, just to try and calm my nerves, just to be able to sleep. And the worst was that I couldn't sleep. I would wake up 3, 4, 5 times a night and I just couldn't sleep. And the less I slept, the worse it was the next day, the more I struggled. So there was this need to sleep, this need and this want to relax, so I felt myself in a prison, this rat race that wasn't really going well, and it was really just heading into one direction. I can really imagine how people come to a point where they just don't know what to do anymore. And I was at that place. And the alcohol really didn't help me, it just made things worse. The working really didn't help me, it just made things worse. Me not dealing and facing the emotion just made things worse. But by making things worse, it forced me, it helped me to get to the breaking point. It helped me to literally go on my knees. And I remember this very clearly. It was one night, I woke up, it was all bad. I went to the cupboard, I poured myself another drink, and I knew it, I could feel it, it's wrong. My guts were burning from drinking every night, and I poured the drink and I drank, must have drank half the bottle, and tears just came out of my eyes, and I literally broke down. I went down on my knees, I let go of the bottle, I started weeping and crying, and I begged the universe, I begged God to help me. I said, I just can't go on like this anymore, because I'm destroying my life. My relationship was falling apart. My work, I literally had lost my job, basically. I was falling apart. But by falling apart, I was gifted to rebuild myself. And so in that moment, I think it was the moment that I empowered myself, because the moment I went down on my knees and I let go of facing everything that had become such a struggle and such a challenge to the point. I empowered myself, and I call this the turning point. At the moment I hit that turning point, the information just came streaming in, whether it was through books or mentors or people. It helped me. Everything helped me all of a sudden. Each moment, each day was a little bit of growth, and a little bit of more, and a little better, and a little better, and a little better. And now, 5 years later, I find myself in a position where I can actually speak about it, where I want to empower others through this journey that I've done, through what those tools were, what that shift was for me. And if I could summarize it, and I can really imagine, like Eckhart Tolle, having one moment, just one moment, or Sydney Banks, one thought, or letting go of one thought, enabled them to let go of all the fear, of all the paralyzing fear these people had lived for a long time. I can leave this in the journey in the detailed modules below, because for most of us it's not going to be just one thought or one moment. It's going to be a step-by-step process, working off the resistance, accepting, letting go, learning or unlearning, as I like to say, building empowering habits, letting go of the things that keep us hooked in the negative space or in the dark space. And again, I don't like using the words negative, because it's just the label, it's just what we've come to, it's the heaviness we give that word. But the things like drinking too much, or doing something that's disempowering, eating the wrong foods, not being physically active, are just carrying more weight on us. And if you are struggling with anxiety or challenging emotions like depression, etc., it's great to be and to do healthy things like eat healthily and do physical exercise and read and grow. And so the next 5 years was such an enriched journey of experiences, of mentorships, of books, of people that came into my life randomly and helped me grow through this process to the space that I am in now, where I can literally say I'm living anxiety-free, if you could call it that, without that challenge and that heaviness of the anxiety, where I've empowered myself to run 10 kilometers every day with no problem. And that for 3 years in a row now. And just imagine, 3 years ago I was still drinking every day. But if you could think, 10 kilometers is a far journey. And running that every single day of your life, that seemed unsurmountable. It seemed like it wasn't, you can't do that, especially to myself at that point. And now I do it easily every day. I completely let go of drinking. I don't even have the crave of it. And in my worst time, just after I started to let go of alcohol, it was such a hook. I can really relate to somebody that is challenged with wanting to let go of drinking, it felt like it had a power over me. It felt like this dark force had a hook on me and pulled me in. The bottle was literally calling for me. And today, looking back at that moment and just realizing that it was just myself creating that own space of heaviness is easy for me to share. But in these modules, you'll learn to empower yourself with your own tools, with your own experience, with your own opportunity to let go of these disempowering habits, as I like to call them, and building those empowering habits, the ones of like running 10 kilometers a day, or just doing something that you feel great about every day, just starting something new. My life now is that of a father of 2 children, healthy, a husband of a great and beautiful wife, a successful entrepreneur, a healthy athlete, somebody that's let go of eating things that are completely unhealthy, like sugars and others. But most of all, I'm somebody that is now in a space where I want to and can and would like to share how I got here and empower others with those same abilities. I will help you get to know your emotions, sit with your emotions, overcome your emotions, start loving your emotions, learning and growing from your emotions. I will share helpful coping tools and very beneficial resources such as links to podcasts, videos, books, websites. I will mentor and share a supporting diet, how important the role of food is, water, sunlight, minerals, what's right, what isn't, what works for you. I will help you to learn and build empowering habits, like exercising daily, eating healthily, starting something new, facing that big wall. I will also help you let go of disempowering habits, things that you might be struggling with, things that you know and you feel are wrong. Maybe you're drinking too much, maybe you're smoking too much, maybe you're doing something that you just know isn't constructive for your life, but you're struggling to let go of it. It's got a hook in you, it's holding you. And last, once you've worked through all of this, I will share how to stay motivated, how to keep you disciplined, how to keep you in this process of growing and moving forward, staying focused, staying disciplined and confident in yourself, feeling great, embracing life, living your true purpose, living your genius. My mentorship is about empowering you. It's a journal of 13 years worth of experience and resources that I've carefully modulated and put together in 6 specific modules to help empower you. Yes, you behind the camera. Just having these modules and looking at them daily will help you with your journey forward.